Following Monza, I put out a video on why all the drivers are running wide at Parabolica and the FIA were being so strict about it. But another thing really to show its ugly head due to the unique characteristics of Monza was the absolute cluster ruckus that was everybody trying to get a tow at once and missing out on getting a final hot lap in. But before we get to that, I'm just going to tell you about this video's sponsor up front so it's out of the way and you can enjoy the video uninterrupted. Today I'm going to encourage you to try Skillshare. As I'm sure you're aware, Skillshare is an online learning community, which means you get access to a space where lots of creators, experts and entrepreneurs have created custom classes to help you get started or get stronger at your desired skill. I'm lucky enough to do this YouTube gig as my job, but it can be all kinds of confusing and unnerving to take the leap into working for yourself. Luckily, Skillshare has a whole catalogue of helpful classes on launching a business, dealing with finances, making wise decisions. Have a look at Be Your Own Boss by Martina Floor, for example. Having an idea of what to do gives you a solid foundation for forging your own path forward, be it creatively or in business or whatever. A subscription to Skillshare that gives you unlimited access is only $10 a month with an annual subscription, but thanks to them sponsoring this video, you can get a 2-month free trial by following the link in the description. Right, Monza then. As previously stated, the Italian track is the only high-speed power circuit on the F1 calendar. Its multiple long straights mean that 84% of the lap is run at full throttle, so almost everything on the car is biased towards speed in setup. You want the car to reach high top speeds and reach them quickly. This is crucial to getting a fast lap in qualifying, or any time really, but qualifying is the session of nailing that one fast lap. That's why in Monza, and to a degree in Spa the previous weekend, at the very long full throttle section from La Source to Lecumbe, we saw cars teaming up to utilise what's been called the tow. Now, we kind of instinctively know what the tow is. Teammates, usually, will run one behind the other on the qualifying outlap so that the leading car can give the trailing car a marginal boost. The effect is genuinely pretty marginal, but as we know in Formula 1 and especially qualifying, the small margins can make all the difference. To get a tow from the car in front, the car behind needs to get into the leading car's slipstream, that is the low pressure volume of air being created behind them. See, in a more universal sense, the track stays still, the air is hanging in a fairly stationary way, and Formula 1 cars rush through it. Obviously, this is a very silly reference frame to use if you want to study the interaction between the air and the car, because you're mostly interested in what happens to the car. So instead, let's just assume the car stays still and the track rushes past it. This is exactly the same model, we've just changed our frame of reference. That is, the thing we choose as a stationary point, from the track to the car. And this is what car designers do themselves. A wind tunnel is just a car held stationary while huge fans suck air over the body and a rolling road treadmill simulates the track moving underneath. But let's ignore the car for a moment and really think about the moving air, which we can think of as wind. And at hundreds of kilometers an hour, we really can think of this as hurricane strength wind. So imagine you, a human, I assume, trying to walk through this hurricane while holding a shield. You can almost feel that, right? It's really hard to push forward against this wind. But if instead you're walking behind this first person, you'd find it a heck of a lot easier. That's because the huge winds are being displaced by the person in front, creating a large pocket of low pressure, low density air behind them that's much, much easier to pass through. So you use less energy walking behind the leading person, and you can even move much faster in this pocket, the slipstream, should you want to. In this case, the person behind will be getting a tow because for the same energy it seems like they're being pulled forward faster than if they were in the brunt of the howling winds. Back to the cars then. So naturally, with these big straights in Monza, it's important to maximise your top speed potential to shave a tenth or two off your fast lap. Your fast lap begins with an outlap from the pits to set you up. Your speed all the way down the pit straight in particular is important as you want to nail it right through your outlap to set you up as fast as possible for when you need to switch to your fast lap as you cross the line. On your own, you're obviously pushing against the air like the guy with the shield in the wind. Obviously, F1 cars are designed to be a lot more elegant and slippery against the wind than old Shield Boy, but they still drag against the air. And those big wings, even when flattened out in Super Monza spec, still drag against the air kind of like the shields themselves. A lot. They pull against the acceleration of the car a lot. So obviously, if you didn't have all this air to push through all the way down the pit straight, you'd be able to do it a lot faster, hit top speed a lot faster and get to the first corner in a quicker time, which is why you want to be the second person, behind the shield guy. If you stay behind them all the way down the back straight, rectilinear, using less energy than you would have needed, then follow them through Parabolica onto the pit straight. You can then use this low pressure, low density slipstream to accelerate even faster and then slingshot out past them to maximise your speed down the straight and start your lap off right. If you're very lucky, it could give you a maybe 10 km/h boost by the end of the pit straight and a 1/10 of a second cut out of your lap time. So small margins, but important in the world of qualifying. And of course, this is also why you'll tuck in behind the car in front when looking to overtake them during the race. You get more acceleration available and can slingshot past. Exactly the same thing, except it's not a consensual manoeuvre between teammates. But back to qualifying, and why almost everyone failed to set a lap time in the last run of Q3 at Monza. So the natural pattern of Q3 is most people will go out and set a lap in the first half of the session to make sure they've got something on the table in case anything dramatic happens later. Obviously this will be a genuine attempt at a lap, but most drivers expect to go for their best possible lap in the second half of the session. Quite often, track evolution means the track improves through qualifying, and you'll tend to want to be the last person out on track at the end of Q3 for the best possible chance of a supreme lap. Again, these are small margins we're talking about, but strategists are paranoid, pernickety people. In Monza, there's the added effect of this tow we've discussed. Teams will have pre-arranged with their drivers who gets to tow whom ahead of time, normally on the basis of swapping with each run or between race weekends. But also, with everyone else on the track, you really don't want to be the chump who goes out first and leads the whole train of cars round the outlap. You'll be the only sucker pushing through the hurricane while everyone else benefits from the tow behind. As a quick aside, there is a bit of an overplayed myth about the double slipstream. If you're the third car in a train of close running cars, you do get a slight extra benefit, but nothing as ridiculously overpowered as a double slipstream suggests. The majority of the slipstream effect comes from the first car, and the second car in line merely helps continue that hole in the air down the train. Another fun aside that we don't really see in F1 because they don't tend to run in trains or pelotons like oval racers or cyclists do, if the car behind runs right nose to tail with the car ahead, both cars can benefit. This is because a lot of the drag on the leading car comes from the larger vacuum of air directly behind it as it displaces the air away. If the following car moves close into this space, it breaks the vacuum by creating a continuous slipstream down the train of cars and sending the vacuum to the back. Both cars now share the vacuum space of one car and will be able to move much faster. And this effect increases as more cars join the train. Pretty fun. Though the leading car will always be doing the most work, it still gets to benefit somewhat from the close slipstreaming behind. Oh, another aside, during the race you might sometimes see a driver weave to break the tow, which is basically just their attempt to create a bit of a moving goalpost of shielded air behind them to stop the car behind benefiting. This was especially funny during the Formula 2 sprint race when the leader, Aitken, tried to break the tow of the entire train behind him by weaving across the track, resulting in a slithery slake of cars right down the pit straight. Anyway, back to the hell of qualifying. Earlier in the session, Mercedes had already played silly buggers by pretending to lead the train out of the pits, only to pull to one side and let everyone through. Now you might argue that this moment was the real gloves off moment where everyone else thought, oh fine, I guess we can do whatever we want to make sure we're not stuck at the front of the pack. And so in the dying moments of qualifying, everyone left the pits to go on their final runs. Bear in mind that teams send their drivers out with very small margins to get to the line on time. Charles Leclerc, for example, was sent out with a 10-second margin to play with between him being able to get to the start-finish line and the checkered flag ending the session. Hulkenberg, who led the train out, decided to just skip the first corner entirely and go down the escape road so that he could slot back into the middle of the train. Stroll, second in line, wasn't having any of it and backed right up to make sure the Hulk would still be leading. Sainz behind wasn't prepared to take the lead either, and thus began the most farcical attempt by all drivers not to be at the front of the train. So much so that they even blocked other drivers who may or may not have wanted to get on with it. As we saw, the end result was that the pack was so slowed that only 2 cars made it to the line in time and every other car failed to start their quick lap. They looked like amateurs. Teams that spend millions of dollars and run international mission control style operations were undone by the drivers prattling about on the outlap. I mean, it was quite funny, really. The question remains, does anything need to be done about this? There were a couple of reprimands handed out for driving unnecessarily slowly, but it was hard to separate the complicit drivers from the affected ones. Part of me says, just let the drivers get on with it, and if they're too silly to do qualifying properly, then it's their own fault if they lose out. But another part knows it's embarrassing and drivers need to be given an official word not to faff about on the outlap. They were already given a minimum time to meet on the outlap to try and curb this waiting for the tow behaviour, but obviously it didn't work. How do you legislate this? Don't faff about on the outlap isn't exactly a hard and fast rule. It seems absurd we need to think about the need to write rules to tell drivers to stop messing about and play the game properly, but here we are. It's the so-called pinnacle of motorsport, but with such high stakes, so the likelihood of toying with the letter of the law increases. Bunch of gangsters they are.